Hey guys, thanks so much and welcome to the Game Your Future podcast. I'm Daniel and we're here to help gamers realize their full potential. If you're looking for that impact, that income, this is where you want to be. And we have success stories from some of our favorite gamers around the world. So today I have for you a very fun special guest. This is Anthony Thomas. Anthony is an IT lab coordinator, a cybersecurity work studies supervisor, and an indie pro wrestler, in addition to being a gamer. Thank you so much, Anthony, and welcome. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
Fantastic. So quite the I'll say the resume. So like I love having the gamers on the podcast and a lot of them in IT. The first I'll say indie pro wrestler I've met as part of that too. So tell us a little bit about kind of your journey, where you came up, and how did IT mash with pro wrestling?
So I had a weird upbringing because first off, I've always loved computers. I love video games. So like I don't know if you remember, and it's going to show my age a little bit, but if you remember War Games with Matthew Broderick
Yes.
and came out in the early '80s, and I
Fun
had
movie. Yep.
yeah, it's crazy. And then we had Apple IIe when we first started. So me being like 8 or 9 years old, tinkering around with that, and then if you remember, so I had a system before Nintendo. It was a ColecoVision. So my uncle had that, and
Didn't have
yeah,
a
so that's really
ColecoVision.
where.
I had the Atari 50,
Mm-hmm.
52, 5400, whichever it
52,
was.
52,
52.
5200.
Yeah.
So we had that before Atari, and we had the Ataris. So yeah, I mean, we had Pong, we had Tank, and stuff like that. So back in the days, and I've always been a gamer. I love gaming, and I love watching wrestling and stuff like that. So, like I said, watching wrestling, playing video games, and stuff when I was like 8 or 9 years old. That kind of grew up with me. And then as you get older, your gaming gets bigger. So some of my favorite games is some of the Final Fantasy series. So we got Final Fantasy 6, Final
Yes.
Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 7. Chrono Trigger is my favorite of all time. It's of
Mine
all time.
too. So I do
Yes.
when I heard that your Chrono Trigger was your favorite, I'm like, all right, well, we'll be fast friends because that's mine too.
Yes,
So it's
yes.
instant right
It's
there. Yeah.
it's I think that it's as close to flawless as you can get, not to mention that it's a time travel game, which that's some of my favorite genre of movies is like time travel. So like the Back to the Future trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies and whatnot due to time travel. So I love that. But yeah, and I play PS4, PS5 now, and I play that when I have downtime. I'm usually busy all the time, if not from wrestling or training to wrestle, or my current job at the university I work at. It's only 24 hours in a day, and you can only devote so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of the challenge I think for all of us is that there's just so much, so much to do and so little time, as they say, right? So
Hmm.
but having that kind of call it the additional hobby, right? The passion for the wrestling. So I'd
Hmm.
like to hear, yeah, even a little bit more as far as like how did that come about, and what I'll say just what that kind of journey looked like from that lens as a gamer.
So it's funny. I've always wanted to dabble in wrestling, but when I was younger, life always threw me a detour. Like for example, I used to live in Alaska when I graduated from high school. There wasn't a wrestling promotion up there, and then when I joined the military, joined the army, then there's a wrestling promotion. And then when I was in Hawaii, my first duty station, I didn't know that there was a wrestling promotion, and then on top of that, I was having a kid, and so I was too busy being dad. And then next thing I know, when I left Hawaii, I found out there was a wrestling promotion. And then when I got to Colorado, where I'm currently at right now, I was deployed all the time. So I was here from 2003 to 2011. I was deployed every calendar year from 2003 to 2011. So I was either getting ready to leave, I was already there, or I was coming back. And after I got out the military, I mean, people who know me know that I'm like a huge wrestling fan. And then I had a couple of mutual friends like, oh yeah, there's a wrestling promotion here. You can go ahead and try out for it. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm in my 40s. I got bad knees and stuff like that. And like nobody's a bigger, passionate wrestling fan than you are. I'm like, yeah, but I'm fat, I'm out of shape, and blah blah blah. And then I went to train with a good friend of mine. I'll name drop him. Uh, Big Guns Justin Andrews, Jimbo Lucas. Those were my first two trainers, and the first couple of days they hurt. It sucks, and so but I kept coming back, and and then just kept getting better from there. And then just and then I wrestled locally, and then I wrestled a couple of states over, and and I'm still doing it, even though I'm like almost 50, and I'm like people are like, dude, and then people don't think that I'm my age either. So it's like you're not in your 40s. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I am. Like, can I see an ID? And I'm like, okay, never been carded for this, but here you go.
The ID. That's great.
Yeah, that's actually happened at a show that when I was a trainee, I was 43, 44 at the time, and one of the talent didn't think I was 40. Like I said, I was like, "You're not 40," and I'm like, "There you go." So,
Fantastic. So imagine, yeah, just using that passion, right? And just taking that and moving into wrestling, right? You've had that for as long as you can remember. So I absolutely love
mhm.
that story because I think as gamers we have that all the time too, where we have this passion, this love for video games and like Chrono Trigger, especially these RPGs, I think
Mhm.
Final Fantasy huge. Because what's bigger than saving the world,
Of
right?
course, of course.
And that's where I think games have been so powerful. I think just over time that people don't realize like just how amazing games are in certain ways. Where
Mhm.
I think there's this I'll call it Tony Robbins, if you've heard that name, one of the
I've heard
big
of it.
gurus, right? He talks about these six human needs, and whether it's consistency and then variety and then just the need for connection, the need for significance, importance, and I'm like, what's more significant than saving the world, right?
Of
So
course.
when you're 7, 8 years old, you're like, I could save the world. Like that's one of the things that I like to say is that like I had I come from a family. My grandfather was a politician, right? So
Hmm.
he was like my hero. I looked up to him, and I'm like, well, there's no way a 8 year old can affect change like that, but
Right,
you can save the world in a video game.
right.
So having
And I think
this passion, go ahead.
And you're absolutely right about saving the world or, achieving your goals in a game. It makes you feel more important than what you are. So like for example, we just go about life being regular Joe Schmo, but then you play Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy or I mean, and the reason why I love Final Fantasy stories like that, the good ones anyway, is that when you perfect example. Now I might be wrong because I know it's Final Fantasy. I think it's Final Fantasy 3 in Japan, but Final Fantasy 6 here is that when you start the game, the way that the game starts and the way that the game ends is like two different things. Like, okay, I just started off with Locke and trying with Terra and all them, and then next thing you know, you got 12 people, and the guy who you didn't think was the villain turns out to be one of the few villains that actually achieved what he wanted, and you have to stop him. And that's one of the things about video games. Because I mean, and that's one of the things I love about video games is that it's escape from reality. Because let's be honest, in this day and age, we deal with things that we don't like or things that we can't avoid. We have a job that we may or may not enjoy. Like I enjoy my job, but then there's things that we have to do, and then and you have mortgages or rent or anything like that, and then we have to put up with everything that's in society that we have to do in society. But then you play an hour or two, and then you just escape, and you feel better.
Absolutely. The sometimes you just need to decompress, right? And so sometimes you're just like, I just need
Absolutely.
to escape into this world. And depending on how you're feeling that day, right? If there's some pent up frustration, you're like, well, I'm gonna go play my shooter games,
Yeah,
or I'm gonna play like I like to play like an RTS or strategy games where it's like I just
of
need to go
course.
blow stuff up, right?
Exactly. And wrestling is no different. Wrestling is no different. So, like for example, with wrestling, I'm really not sociable, have social anxiety. I don't like getting in front of people. And people think that wrestling is just, oh, it's just they do this, they do that. No, it's so many other things. Like you have to be an actor or actress because you're portraying a character. You have to be a public speaker. You have to speak in front of people. You have to be your own salesman because you sell your own merch. You have to be an athlete, and you have to be sociable around people, which, like I said, I have social anxiety. So that's kind of weird that I'm doing a hobby that I'm around a lot of people.
Exactly. Yeah, and
So,
that's why I'd love to talk about that some more.
oh,
Uh,
go ahead. The lights came
no,
off
it's totally.
and
So,
it's
no, I'd love to
ridiculous.
talk about that a little bit more as far as the social anxiety part of it, like because that's something just from talking to you, I wouldn't necessarily know or recognize, right? And especially
Right.
doing the pro wrestling. Yeah.
Hmm.
So what would you say to, I guess, some of our fellow gamers that maybe they also have this social anxiety that don't, like how am I going to get in front of people? How
Oh,
am I going to how am I going to move up in a leadership position, or how am I going to start pro wrestling? Like that's just light years away from where I am now, right? That's what people are thinking.
uh, so one of the things I tell people when I get asked about it is that you're gonna have to step outside your comfort zone if you want. If you there's an old saying, if you want to be if you want to be where nobody else has been, you're gonna have to do what nobody else has done. And like I said, before I started wrestling or something like that, I really didn't talk to people. I really didn't associate with people. I was the one that like would go to social gatherings, and I was the one that always looks mad. Which I'm not mad. I'm just like not really sociable. Or if I don't know you, I'm gonna look like I don't like you. And it's not that at all. But over time, it's I like I switch myself off and I portray this other person. You always want to be the character. The character in wrestling is normally the person that you're not what you're not in real life. Sorry about the stammer, but yeah, and it gets easier over time. I still have bouts with social anxiety every now and again, but it gets easier from time to time, and you just have to step outside of yourself. Because there was one time I wrestled in front of, I think it was about, I want to say 400 people in a high school, and that was probably the most I've ever wrestled in front of. It was scary. It was very scary. But then, you have to go out there. You might make a mistake. That comes with the territory. But you do what you do, and what's the worst that can happen? And we get to I got there's an old saying in wrestling. The worst thing that can happen to you is not getting cheered, it's not getting booed, it's just complete and total silence. That
Oh,
means the crowd does not care. And I've had that happen to me, and I almost quit. It was bad. And I promised myself I would rather get a reaction than no reaction at all.
I completely agree with that. That's just reminded me of something fun that so one of my best friends owns a brewery, right? So talking about
Hmm.
beer, and that's one of the things. So being a brewery owner, right? He's like big on the sales side of it. He has like a brewer that actually does the
Hmm.
the actual brewing. But one of the most important things he noticed in beer in the marketing
Hmm.
is remembrance, is that kind of that again that significance. But the
Right.
worst kind of beer you can be is forgettable,
Right.
right?
No,
So
and I agree. I agree completely. It's that, I'm not, I mean, when you do what you do, you want it to be memorable for good reasons.
yeah,
And whatever
preferably for
character
good reasons, yes.
yeah, yeah, and for whatever character I play, whether it's a face, which is a good guy, or a heel, which is a bad guy, I want them to remember me. You know, I may not be the main event, I may be, the first match on the card or anything like that, but I want it to be memorable for that reason.
Exactly. And so I think that's so important that people realize is that, doing these kind of memorable things too, and you mentioned this before, sometimes does
Mhm.
require getting out of your comfort zone. But that's where the
Exactly.
growth is, right? That's where you
Mhm.
start to excel. Because if you just stay in your
Mhm.
comfort zone, it's you're kind of in inaction, right? You're just kind of stuck. You're in a rut and nothing will change. And there's
Exactly. And if you get too comfortable, you're not going to get better. So I had a friend of mine who I went to a seminar and I'm still friends with till this day. His name is Gino Rivera. His nickname is Gino Told You So, like I told you so. And he always tells me, you always want to wrestle people better than you are. Because how are you going to get better if you wrestle the same people or you wrestle and you're comfortable? You need to be uncomfortable. You need to push your limits so that way you can see how far you go. And I realized that. So,
That's absolutely true. That was again that so similar, right? Because I had the same kind of advice when I was when I did tennis in high school
mhm,
and college. It was like you got to play people better than you. Like you're not going to
exactly,
get better, you're not going to grow unless you play people better.
exactly.
So it's the same kind of thing where that is a little uncomfortable, right? Because it's like we're going to be
Of
playing
course.
people better than you, and they're probably going to they'll probably kick your ass maybe the first time. So it's like, yeah, that's
Well,
unfair.
it's not just that either, because I mean, so some of the things that go through my head when I'm about to perform is like, okay, this person's in better shape than me, or they may wrestle longer than me, or they may have a better connection with the crowd than me, or they can do more flashy moves than me. But then I realized that you can't compare yourself to what the other person does. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, this person that the promoter has booked you for a reason, and you want to do the best of your ability, because it's not the first booking that's the important, it's the subsequent bookings after that that they ask you to come back. And I try to cut down on that, like, okay, comparisons is the thief of joy, and it's not a good thing. So that's one of the things that I try to do before a match, is not think about my opponent. My job is to make him look good, my his job is to make me look good. So
There you go. And it's so important that it can't stress that point enough as far as the comparison, right? So do not compare yourself to others. I've
exactly.
I've heard there's only one person that you're allowed to compare yourself against, and
And that's
that's
yourself.
yourself of yesterday.
Mhm. That's
Right.
correct.
So as long as you're making, and it can be just small improvement, right? Just get just a little bit better, right? Because you get that
Hmm.
compounding effect, right? It'll grow over time. You just do a little bit each day, and just a little
Right.
bit. It's that consistency thing, right? There's
That's
a reason
correct.
consistency works, and
Hmm.
it's something that I've had to learn the hard way myself. But it could be just it's simple things, right? It's
Right.
brushing your teeth, right? It's like we're told, yeah, you got to brush your teeth every day. It's like ugh, it's ridiculous.
Right.
Well, because it makes sense. You can't just 9 hours before the dentist just start brushing your teeth for hours and be like, I'm good.
Yeah, it's already too late at that
It's
point.
already too late. And
Right.
yeah, I know people say that with like working out, right? So like you gotta work like the same thing. You can't just work out for 9 hours and they're like, oh, now you're buff. And you're like, I wish
Yeah,
that's the
no.
way it worked because I definitely do
I do too. I do too.
that. Because I can put in the effort in sprints, but yeah, so consistency's been my struggle too, but it's definitely gotten
Right.
I've definitely worked on it over time, and it's definitely helped a huge, huge amount. So I think the advice for people is, yeah, if you do compare yourself, it's only to yourself of yesterday
Right.
because you're going to continue to take action each time.
Right.
Exactly. So as far as I want to switch back to kind of the gaming side of things, and as far
Okay.
as taking that kind of consistency, taking that passion, put around video games, right? Because we tend
Hmm.
to play a lot of video games. We tend to play consistently. So as a
Right.
result, we tend to get actually skills from this. And that's the kind of core of
Right.
the podcast, for this Game Your Future podcast that I love to share is having these kind of skills because we're
Right.
so Anthony, I just wanted to ask you, what skill do you think that you've seen in your life that has shown up more often than not when people, again, you're not supposed to, but people maybe compare themselves to you and say like, wow, you're so
Mhm.
good at X. Like what have you
Right.
noticed from that or just in yourself just to say like, wow, I feel much better than other people in this area. What is that for you?
So one of the things that I do, whether it's gaming, whether it's wrestling, whether it's whatever, I've always did what we called in the military, because I'm a vet too. I was in the army. Well, I was in multiple branches, but I was in the active duty army for 15 and a half years. One of the things that we did was after our military exercise, we did one sustained, one improved. And I always think to myself, okay, this didn't go the way that we wanted. What did we do wrong, and then what did we do right? What do we sustain, and what do we need to improve on? And and not like I said, not just with wrestling, but with video games. I mean, anybody that plays Souls like, and I'm gonna be honest with you, Souls likes are the bane of my existence. I play Bloodborne, and I'm like, yeah, nope. I played Dark Souls 1, got beat up, didn't play it. Played Dark Souls 2, got beat up. Elden Ring got beat up. Shadows got died twice, got beat up. And the thing about it, and I only played it for so long, but the thing about it is that when you get beat up, like, okay, this is what I did, and then you change it up. Okay, I got a little bit further, still got beat up, but then okay, this is what I do. This is all about patterns, and that's what life is. Is that you go for a job interview and you're like, okay, so why didn't I get this job? Okay, this is what's going on. This is what you need to improve on. This is what you need to sustain, and you keep going with that. So that's one of the things that I've learned from video games. Or better yet, Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario Brothers 2: The Lost Levels. Not that one that it came out in the US. I'm talking about the one from Japan.
Got it.
That game was brutal, and you had to learn, and you had to employ what you learned, or you wasn't going to get very far. So yeah.
Exactly. That's so true. So if I could recap, I think it's the you mentioned the pattern recognition, so understanding
Hmm.
what works, what doesn't.
Hmm.
And for a lot of people, I think that's problem solving skills, right? Like
Hmm.
able to get to the root of like what's actually happening, right? Because that's
Right.
exactly what you're talking. And that's really I think you nailed it because that's to me that's like the number one skill that I think all gamers have is that level of problem solving because you do that in games all the time. Whether
Exactly.
it doesn't have to be puzzle games, right? It's
Hmm.
anything where you're trying to navigate through whether it's bosses like you said, like the Souls likes
Right.
where it's like all right like, don't do that attack again or dodge over
Exactly.
here whatever it is and sometimes
Hmm.
it is like like an actual obstacle like or something like a Zelda where it's like all right push the rock light the torch whatever it is
Exactly.
you got to figure all this stuff out we do this for
Exactly.
fun
Hmm.
so it's no wonder that we go into these positions in companies and or even those that start their own business that say like wow I can solve problems way quicker way faster than everybody else because that's something I
Right.
definitely noticed when I worked at a company. It was like, how did people not get the answer just right away? It's like, oh, because I've been doing this for years in my personal free time.
And in addition to problem solving, you also have, yeah, I think that half that problem solving is half of it, but you have to be tenacious. That's got to be the other half because
Yep,
I mean, you're going to suck, and you're going to suck royally, and then you're going to be like, okay, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to get mad, but then after you get that out of your system, then that should have a passion, like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this project done, or I'm going to get this job, or I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to do whatever. And then you start saying, okay, this is where I am. This is what I did. That didn't work. Okay, so uh, not don't do that again, or don't do that again at this time. What else do we do? And as much as I have a disdain for Souls likes, that Souls likes can actually be good because it makes you tenacious, and then when you finally get to that point where you beat a boss or you beat a stage or whatever, or you explore get to a different area, like, man, how many hours did it take me to get to that, but I didn't quit, so there's that.
exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head because that is something I've mentioned I think on this podcast before is that level, whether we call it being tenacious, tenacity, or perseverance or resilience, right? The
Hmm.
all around the same kind of concept as far as you have to keep going, right? So gamers
Right.
are familiar with the thing called the game over screen.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna see that a lot. In fact, if you don't, I mean, and one of my favorite games, types of games now that I just got into recently are roguelikes. I actually like roguelikes, especially Hades. Hades, I love Hades because you're the first thing they tell you is you're gonna die. You're gonna die a lot, but the experiences and the HP points and the XP points that you take from that run you apply it, and then you get a little bit further, you get a little bit stronger, you unlock a different weapon, and then and you keep going and you keep going further. And I think roguelikes are, in my personal opinion, like a perfect example of life experiences. You're going to suck. You're going to fail at something. But the difference between the winner and the loser is, all the winner is a loser that just didn't give up. He just kept going.
That's wow. That's a fascinating insight that I haven't thought of. That's really cool. So having the roguelite is kind of the analogy for life. And because I've used a similar analogy, I've used a different term for something
Hmm.
kind of like a new game plus, right? Where it's like
Exactly.
where you get to take what you know, or you get to take
Hmm.
some limited amount of skills, whether it's sometimes it's your experience or equipment, sometimes it's just, only skills, whatever it is, you get to take
Right.
something with you. And that is
Right.
how life works, right? Whether it sucks, maybe you get fired or laid off from a job. Oh well.
Hmm.
But guess what? You've learned skills. You have knowledge from that job that
Exactly.
when you go to the next interview, you go to some other place, you get to take yourself and your knowledge with you. Right?
Exactly.
You're
And
never
that's
starting
that's a
over.
good way to think about it too. Because in fact, this time last year, or July of last year, I actually lost my job, and it was very disheartening. It was very heartbreaking. But then going back to Souls, like, okay, or roguelikes, okay, like, I gotta get a job, I gotta take care of my family, I got kids I gotta take care of, I got a wife to take care of, and you keep going on job interviews and you don't do well in them, but you keep going, and it's just, and then when you, like the current job that I have now, I'm very lucky to get it. And I wouldn't have gotten it if I had my last job. So it's not always negative. You just have to take the run and, try to go as far as with it and take what you learned from that previous failure.
Exactly. Taking in the current position you're in, and I think for
Hmm.
those out there, it doesn't have to be the last, right? It can be a stepping
Right.
stone to move on. Like I said, new game plus that and go to the next job. Take that experience with you.
Exactly.
Because I've noticed
Exactly.
what I've seen, at least in the corporate world, is a lot of the times that you're in a job for a certain amount of time. The best way to
Hmm.
move up is to move out, and go to another
Exactly.
job, to another location, and they'll put you in a higher position based on your new resume, your new experience, your new skill set.
Exactly.
So fantastic.
I agree.
Awesome. So I think as we wind this particular podcast down, definitely a lot of good information, so many good takeaways, I think, on this. I did want to ask, what is like one, if we had to distill it down, maybe something we've missed? Like what is one piece of advice that you want to make sure that the gamers out there realize, that they know? Because we've talked about not comparing yourself, and we've talked about, resilience in New Game Plus. But what is
Hmm.
something that Anthony, you want to make sure that everybody knows? Oh, and I think we lost
If
your camera.
Oh, okay, hold on for a sec. Okay, there we go. It's being silly again. There it is. Hold on. Okay. There
Perfect.
it is. Okay, I'm sorry.
All
I
right.
was getting an incoming
Perfect,
call and
Anthony.
I
So
said, all right.
what is the one piece of advice you
So
would have for gamers?
one piece of advice for gamers is this, and I actually have to tell myself this often, is no matter how hard how no matter how hard you think it is, the path to success is going to be littered with failures, and you're going to have to keep going and going and going. And like, for example, any game that you played, I mean, it could have been any of the Mario series, Sonic series, Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, whatever gaming. If you start thinking like, oh yeah, I'm trash at this, or I'm not going to be good at this, think about all those times that you played a game and you were determined to get past Bowser or Dr. Robotnik or anybody, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna beat this game and stuff like that. That's the same mindset and implementation that you have in life. And if you and like they always said, if you wanted something bad enough, it's not going to be easy, because if it was easy, it wasn't worth it. And
Exactly.
I have to tell myself that now.
Exactly. If it wasn't worth it, right? It's
Yeah, if it
that's the
wasn't worth it, if it's worth it, it's not going to be easy. If it was
right.
easy, it's not going to be worth it, because you
Exactly.
won't appreciate it.
That's what it is, because the amount of effort that goes into it, and that's why people appreciate and can understand and connect with people that are again, the Souls-like is a great example where they're punishingly hard, but when you can say, yes, I completed the game or I beat this boss, whatever it is, people like the people that know will connect on that and be like,
Exactly.
oh, that's a level of effort that you put in to complete that. That's awesome.
That's hey, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Perfect. Okay, so Anthony, I guess the only question I have left is where can people find out more about you?
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and plug my wrestling page. My wrestling
Absolutely.
page is I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and even on YouTube. So for Facebook, it's Slick. That's Slikk. Tyson, like Mike Tyson, Stone, Stone. You can find me there. You can find Instagram. It's going to be underscore, so Slick underscore Tyson underscore Stone, and also Slick Tyson Stone on YouTube. You can see some of my matches, and just like we were talking about with see the video game progression from when you first started to when you to where I am now. You can see my first match. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not that good in my first match, but as you see me wrestling and progressing, you'll see me be better. And that's where you'll find me. Also, if you reach out to me on social media, I definitely will respond, be respectful, of course. But yeah, that's where you'll find me.
Fantastic. So, guys, definitely check out Anthony Thomas and his pro wrestling career that you can see on both Instagram, Facebook, everywhere, all the socials. We'll have them down for you guys in the description below. Definitely check those out. And I think you've already said it, Anthony, but I do ask everyone on the podcast our very final question, which is, of course, what is your favorite video game?
We were literally talking about this before the interview,
Yep.
and my favorite, if there was a way I could play it again, I would go back to 1995 and play Chrono Trigger for the first time. I want them to make a remake, but I don't want them to make a remake
Yes.
because you don't want to mess with perfection. But I love that game. Like I said, I would trade all my games on my PlayStation or one of them just to play that.
Yes, if I could play Chrono Trigger again for the first time, that would be amazing. That's
Exactly,
so good.
exactly.
It's such a good game.
It's
I
just
completely agree. And
I
if there's a
it's
remake, I think I completely agree too. It's like, how do you mess with perfection? I don't know if you can. The only thing I can imagine is that you could potentially give it the HD 2D makeover like
I
they
mean,
did
they've done
for,
that. They've done that for Dragon Quest 1 and 2, and
yeah.
I can see that. But the thing about it is that when that game came out, you had Akira Toriyama being an animation man. He rests in peace. You had the guy that did the music for Final Fantasy 3. I believe so. It was like
Yeah,
they had a
Uematsu,
perfect
yeah.
storm. Yes, Uematsu, and he had the perfect storm of talent. They had all the people
Yes.
that were best at their field, and that is like the Mona Lisa of video games right there.
Yes.
From
I completely
story to the
agree.
multiple endings. So I love that.
I think they even called it the dream team for the development team on that
Yes, they
series. Yeah.
did.
Yeah. So it's
They
just
did.
like, yeah. So again, how do you mess with that? I don't know if you can,
You
right?
don't. You don't. Or it's like the old saying goes, don't cry because it ended, be happy because it happened. And I'm so blessed to be around that time when it came out because my kids are like my oldest is 25 and my youngest is like 12, and they'll never see how that was when
Yeah.
that first came out.
Yep. Exactly right. Such a great moment in time. And yeah, wish I could
Yes,
experience it again the first time as well. It's so
agreed.
much fun. All right. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for being a part of this. This has been so much fun, so fantastic. So thank you guys also for
My
watching.
pleasure.
Yep, absolutely. And if you want to learn more about, how you can take that gaming aspect of your life and actually get the most out of it, leveling up your career, definitely let me know. You can check me out, dragonmorexp.com, and would love to chat with you there. So, guys, thank you so much. Anthony, thank you for being here.
My pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Absolutely. And, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.
Be good.